No, I'm sorry.
Did you get this?
Yeah.
I got two.
Just send them that way.
I'd like to call this meeting to order at 7:15. And we'll start with standing with the pledge, and Isabel can lead us with the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So I first wanted to make an announcement that we, as a board, have got holiday gifts for our support staff. That'll be for Claudia and for Kyra. I know Claudia's not here tonight, but I'm gonna pass this over to Kyra for all the help and the support that you do for the Board of Ed. Thank you.
Thank you.
And then I'm gonna turn it over to Superintendent Case. For suspension of board and board of education bylaw, number 9120.
Thank you very much. Good evening, everybody. It's great to see all of you. Welcome to our guests here this evening. Normally, at our first board meeting in December, or I should say our regular board meeting in December, we have election of officers. That's Board of Education bylaw number 9120. Because the full membership was not able to be here tonight with our chair being absent, and we weren't sure if any other people were going to be absent today from the board. I'm recommending that we suspend bylaw number 9120 through January 31st, 2023. This would require a 2/3 vote by board members, all of you who were here present tonight, in order for us to suspend that bylaw. If you did vote to suspend the bylaw, we would have election of officers on January 10th. So we're just moving the election of officers until our next regularly scheduled board meeting. So that's the first action of business tonight. Would someone be willing to make that motion?
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Thanks. Thank you, everyone.
Next, seeing that we do have a few people here that want to speak, we're going to move public forum up a little bit, so you're able to do that. I first wanted to acknowledge the fact that we did receive an email. It's in all of your packets. It's from Casey Levine, who's advocating for additional funding for the football program. And then I'll open it up for all those that are in the room that would like to speak for public forum. Please limit your speaking time to 3 minutes.
Okay, thank you, everybody. I'll be 3 minutes, I promise. Football in Canton has never been better. The youth programs, the Mud Hogs, the B and the C team had undefeated seasons. The youth numbers are growing. The program is thriving, and these are all future Bears that are going to come play for our program. The Bears went 8-2. Only losses were to 10-0 SMSA and undefeated Cromwell. We did lose in the first round of the semifinals to Barlow, who ultimately won the state championship. We are a very good program, 52 players, 8 great coaches. Co-ops are not easy. Football programs are not easy. Nothing worthwhile in life is easy. We have big costs. You guys know about this from previous meetings and Casey's email. We pay $15,000 for the bus. We have $34,000 in total costs. We only get $4,000 from the school program. Imagine the soccer team finding out next year that, yeah, it's great you guys have a season, but all the parents are going to have to raise money for the bus. The reality of Connecticut high school football is co-ops. When we play Coventry, we're playing Coventry, Wyndham Tech, Bolton, and Lyman. When we play Windsor Locks, we're playing Windsor Locks, Suffield, and East Granby. Right, we are Granby, Canton, Hartford. Granby, Canton, Hartford, we always leave the Hartford part out. If we had one of those groups of kids leave us, the Hartford kids leave us, the Granby kids leave us, we'd be an average team. But with all three of us, the communities together, we're a very good team. So, any ideas how to raise $30,000? I could sell cupcakes, I could make pies. Well, we have 5 home games, one's in Canton, okay? Our one home game, we weren't allowed to have the fencing, so we lost about $1,000 in ticket sales because we had plenty of people come to our game, but we had plenty of people that didn't pay. We're down $1,000 this year from last year. The concession stand is a great concession stand, but it's run and all the profits go to Canton High School boosters, nothing to us. We do our most successful fundraising effort is the golf tournament, and I don't think anyone was there, but if you were, Mother Nature sacked us, and in 2 holes, the whole thing was canceled. So here's my conclusion is without financial support, Friends of Canton football and high school football in Canton is going to fail. I know in the past there was talk of maybe a 3-year plan to fully fund. But tonight I'm here to ask that you guys pay for the bus for next year. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else in the room for public comment? Yes.
I just have 2 announcements. Hopefully, some of you know, one of our senior doing winter festival this coming Thursday. So, hopefully, some of community members will come and help to make it successful. I don't know if you're planning to talk about it, so, but. Sorry.
Thank you. We are planning on sharing that, just so you know.
Good.
I know I spoke to Karen before that. I'm getting a digital. Share it.
More so that it was posted on Canton website. Thank you. And second announcement, again, sorry if I'm ahead of you. Just, I know Mr. Case knows about it, but I'm not sure what member aware. Senior Trap and some of the Rotary students went to Simsbury last week to Healing Meals Community Project. It's an awesome project and they had fun, we had fun, but the lady in charge said, unfortunately, she doesn't have too many students from Canton who help there, who volunteer there. And I'm not sure if we as a community just not aware that it's possibility to help, but also make some, hours, volunteering hours or whatever. So I brought some flyers as well, but it's an amazing project to be involved for grown-ups, for students, for anybody who's willing to spend a couple hours here and there. That's all.
Thank you. Anyone else? Gonna open it up, sure. Is anyone on?
If there's anyone joining us online tonight that would like to make a public comment, you can go ahead and use the raise hand feature of Zoom and I'll call on you by your Zoom name. I don't have any raised hands.
We're all good. Okay. Seeing none, we'll close a public forum and move on to the student reports.
Okay, to start with past events, going back a little far just because we missed the last meeting's past events. Saturday, November 12th were the high school and Northern Regional Festival auditions. Tuesday, November 15th and through Thursday, the 17th were conferences for all schools. Monday, November 21st was the CHS instrumental concert. Wednesday, November 23rd was early release for all schools. There was no school Thursday, November 24th, and Friday, November 25th, due to Thanksgiving recess. Tuesday, November 29th, there was CHS junior night. Wednesday, November 30th was the CHS choral concert. Friday, December 2nd was the Molly Gwen trip to Newhart. Tuesday, December 6th was early release for all schools. Wednesday, December 7th was the CHS 4-year college night. Thursday, December 8th was the CMS 7th grade winter concert, and Saturday, December 10th, is this UPS PTO gingerbread festival. For upcoming events, today, tomorrow, December 14th, there will be a CIS sixth grade winter concert. Friday, December 16th is the Canton Middle School Student Council Winter Dance. Friday, December 23rd, there will be a half day for all schools. Monday, December 26th, and January 2nd will be the district-wide holiday recess. Thursday, January 5th will be CHS Astronomy Night held by Science National Honor Society. And for ongoing, we hope that everyone will have a wonderful winter break.
Thank you. Any board member have any questions at all? Student report? Okay, seeing none, I'm gonna pass it over to Superintendent Pace. For his report.
Thank you very much. Good evening again, everybody. The first part of my report tonight is an overview of a program that I'm recommending we bring to our middle school and high school students here in Canton. You have a copy of the presentation in your packet. And what this is called is the Canton Public Schools Student Assistance Program. So about 1.5 years ago, when the federal government released some grant funds through the American Rescue Plan, also known as ARPA, Julie Osseray, the previous board chair, and a couple of board members from our past board served on a committee to determine what the grant funds should be used for with the town. And we determined that we wanted to put aside $45,000 to support students' emotional and mental health during this post-pandemic period. So that was about 1.5 years ago. It's taken us a while to find the right program. And tonight I'm here to present to you what I believe is the right program for our students. This program is sponsored by HMSA, the Health Management System of America. This evening, we also have Bill Latz, who's here in our audience, who is the regional director for Call a Doctor Plus, who assisted us in getting this company to provide this service to our students. Now, I do want to say that our chair, Lou Daniels, is also connected with Call a Doctor Plus, but he has written a letter recusing himself from this discussion, and he submitted that to the town clerk. And he's also checked with the town ethics board. So I just wanted to make that very clear that the person we've been dealing with is Bill. And he's here tonight to help answer any questions once I go over the overview of the program. So if we look at the third page of the presentation, who is Health Management Systems of America? So this company was established in 1990, a recognized specialist in work-life programs. And if you approve this, we're hoping our service to our students would begin on January 1st or January 3rd when we return back to school. This says October 1st, right? We were hoping to begin this in the fall, but there were quite a few steps we needed to take. So we're hoping this will begin in the new year. This is an independent and privately held company headquartered in Detroit with a network of over 13,000 providers in over 3,000 cities across the country. The company provides behavioral health and well-being services to over 1,500 client companies, including Fortune 500 companies, government agencies, school districts, universities, and hospitals. So what would this look like? This program would enable any of our middle school and high school students to call a number to get support. So any middle school or high school student who needed mental health support 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, would have this hotline number they could call, and they would get immediate support. They would get immediate counseling. Now, you might be wondering, would a parent know about this? A parent would need to fill out a consent form to allow the child to call this number. So again, it would give all of our middle schoolers and high schools 24/7 access to clinicians for in-the-moment support in crisis stabilization. There would be an app that students could keep on their phone, and there would also be many, many website resources. The Student Assistance Program would be a voluntary short-term coaching service designed to help students with personal issues, family issues, or school-related concerns. The program could also help our students identify, gain control over, and resolve personal issues or conflicts that may be interfering with their life or educational performance, along with daily life. Now, for complex concerns, those could be escalated to network clinicians for a limited number of counseling sessions. And again, the counselors would reach out to the parent and work with the parent on establishing those counseling sessions. On the next page, you'll find out what some typical coaching issues are that the clinicians deal with and support students with. You can see 3 general categories: general well-being, school-related issues, and family peer relationships. There's also counseling support for anxiety or depression, addictive behavior concerns, child abuse, dating violence, grief, codependency, personality disorders, mood disorders, or suicidal ideation. The clinicians would provide in-the-moment support. So these sessions are meant to address a student's immediate need for support. The service offers a direct access to a counselor. And while many students may be hesitant to participate in continued sessions due to ambivalence or resistance about the commitment or coaching relationship, the clinicians are available to work that out. They're available to help manage a variety of concerns as identified by the student. What's important to note is this is all confidential unless the student poses a risk to himself or herself, right? If that's the case, counselors would reach out immediately to the local authorities, to the police, medical personnel, or a designated support individual for that student. So if the student was in immediate harm or crisis, the local authorities would be contacted immediately. As a school district, we would get quarterly reports on the statistical data on the number of cases in categories that the students requested support in. And then there's another benefit too, which has to do with financial wellness. So if students were interested in financial literacy, which we know is so important for our middle schoolers and high schoolers, they would have a chance to talk with financial counselors as well, who could help them with budgeting, debt and credit issues, spending and saving, student loans, very important, planning for college, how to invest in education, and much more. So not only will this service support a student's emotional and mental health, it will also help them develop skills, those important life skills in financial literacy. The students would also be provided with a variety of web resources, articles on various well-being topics. They'd be offered on-demand webinars, mindfulness sessions, and financial calculators. And as I said, they would also have the opportunity to have a mobile app on their phone to assist them with resources. So again, the specific program features direct access helpline 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. Unlimited scheduled virtual or telephonic coaching sessions. Short-term problem resolution sessions with a counselor where appropriate, in-the-moment support, financial consultations, a mobile app, and work-life website with access to online resources. We would also have promotional materials, posters to post in the school, brochures to give out to students to make all students aware of this. Many times students are hesitant to reach out to our school district's mental health professionals as much as we would want them to do that and encourage them to do that. This is a way that anonymously they can get help right away. On a Saturday night, if they're having difficulty with a relationship and they're distraught, they have a counselor that they can call. So this is another layer that I think is really important that we as a school district can provide our students in the area of supporting social and emotional health. The cost of this program is $5 per student per month. We have approximately 722 middle schoolers and high schoolers. And if you approve this, this program would be in effect for 1 year. So for all of the calendar year 2023, the total cost would be $42,000 for this support. And again, we set aside this money in the ARPA grant funds with the town for this specific purpose. I'll stop there to see what questions you have. Bill, do you have anything to add that I may have left out?
I think you did a great job. The program, I would just emphasize, is focused on students of this age. The counselors are trained to speak with students of that age, and that's their livelihood. So it's not like you're gonna be calling, or they would be calling a counselor that might be talking to me, for instance, and dealing with my issues, and then maybe talking to an eighth grader later. These counselors are focused. This is what they do for a living. And what we've learned, I've been doing telemedicine, virtual healthcare, if you will, for 11 years now. And what we've learned, particularly in the area of mental health, is that specialty is knowledge of the customer or the client, the patient, however you want to be referred to, is very important. So one of the reasons we selected or recommended this company, HMSA, is because of their level of depth of knowledge of the counselors and their experience in dealing with a younger age group, if you will. It's a different animal, it's a different group of people, and they have to have that understanding, compassion, and so forth. The only other thing I would mention is probably the most, I won't say the most important feature, but the most discussed feature is the corrective intervention or the in the moment counseling that Kevin discussed. But one of the things that we really like about the program so much is that it's really there to help that student beyond that immediate need, but to give them some of those life skills that they're going to need to go forward. You know, in the news almost every day is some kind of a report of bullying going on. Bullying goes on in every town with every school system in America. If the child knows how to deal with that situation up front, they're better equipped to be successful in dealing with it. If they don't, then, and this is just one example of many, that we've seen where the success of a program can really help a student that really doesn't have anything to do necessarily with being depressed or having, it's that everyday thing you may be faced with. And it's given those coping skills and tools, if you will. So it's, we think it's a very well-rounded program. And that it does the immediate crisis management, but it also does the day-to-day helping us to get through whatever their particular needs are.
I have a question. I don't know.
Sure.
So I think this sounds really interesting and really helpful. I'm wondering, like, during school hours, if students are feeling like, I know you said it's 24/7. I'm wondering, like, during school hours, how will teachers handle the situation? Like, how will students, like, say they're going through something and they want to contact the people? How will they be able to, like, leave class, or I don't, where would they go to do that?
That's a great question. And you reminded me that if the board did approve this program, we would have a meeting with all of our staff to inform them what this is all about. A meeting set up. But I'm thinking that, you could ask to leave class to go to the guidance suite or to the nurse's office and find a private space.
The number of students that are in. There a certain percentages of students use it or not, correct?
That's correct.
Okay, and then do you have any data on similar sized districts, like how many students, what percentage of students are utilizing something like this?
I don't, not off the top of my head, I don't. Keep in mind, these programs are relatively new. They really, so, although HMSA and mental health programs have been around for years, programs that are focused on middle school and high school programs or age students are fairly new, so these statistics would be pretty young, even if we had it. But I can say that if I look at our general population, which is not just students, again, I'm talking, and we do a lot of work with businesses and organizations, all over the country. It's about 25% of the utilization of the program. Meaning, and what they tell us is about 40% of any given population has a mental health need. So, which if you translate that, means we're probably reaching out and helping about 60% of those in need. I don't know if that answers your question, but
Somewhat, I know it's new and the data may not be there.
it's
yet.
kind of vague, but it's because populations vary so much and we don't have a lot of stats on the children. What we do know, and there's a lot of data in that report, the mental health crisis amongst younger age adults and children it's an epidemic right now. And if our feeling is, and what a lot of those school districts believe, is if you can nip it in the bud, catch it early before it escalates into something more serious, that's what you want to do. Things, particularly at a younger age, what might be something that might be fairly simple or germane to us, and we can deal with it, because we have, many years of coping skills. To a younger person, it could be very traumatic. And it could escalate into something bad very quickly. So the goal here is to identify an issue, work a plan, help that student work through that issue, and try to resolve it in an early stage before it comes to crisis management scenario. But overall, mental health is across the country it's an epidemic right now.
Yeah. And then, for parents signing waivers, I don't know if this is a question for you, Kevin, or for, you with the program, like, how are they signing these waivers and when is that taking place? For students to be able to utilize?
Yeah, well, I mean, either way, after the program is announced, a waiver, or it's actually called parental consent, is given to the parents to sign. We know, not every parent's gonna sign one right away. Sometimes they're gonna sign them and return them right away. Some population will do it right away, you're very on top of it. Others will have good intentions to do it, but will just forget or not do it, and others may resist it altogether. So the situation, and Kevin alluded to it earlier, is they cannot proceed without a parental consent unless it's an emergency situation. However, if a student is enrolled in the program, which they all would be, and they're eligible for the program, if they call and the counselor will know if that consent form has been completed. If it's not a crisis scenario, which they take a different direction, they notify that student. You know, they'll understand, they can help them kind of for a moment or two, and then they'll say, well, we need to get that consent. So can we talk to your parent? Are they getting Andy right now? Can we email you a copy of the email consent, whatever? They'll work with that student or the parent to get the consent back. But that'll be the last call. If that consent doesn't get completed, they won't be able to get the counseling.
Thank you. Any other board member, any questions?
I have a question about like mandated reporter sort of stuff, like if a kid's getting bullied, I mean, that should be addressed at the school, isn't there like a 3 strikes? And so let's say somebody calls, I mean, is it completely confidential, or do you have some sort of link with to know that this child is the same child who might be calling a second time saying this is happening again to me? I mean,
Yeah, that's a great question. So if it depends on the severity of the situation, if you will. Again, if it's an emergent scenario or a crisis type scenario, they're gonna take immediate action and jump into action and do what's necessary. They do report back quarterly, and we can get monthly reporting that maybe if can't decide they want to, they're reporting, we can do that. Their standard reporting is quarterly, and it'll talk about what type of situations have occurred. There is a strong emphasis that to get that student to go back to any school services or town services that are available to coordinate with that. Now, they can't force the child to do that, but when they're done with their counseling, they're always attempting to get that student to reconnect with whatever local services are available. Work with their principals, work with their counselors here locally. Again, it's a matter of kind of urging them and nudging them to do that. They can't force them.
Yeah, it sounds like my understanding is confidential. They can't go and call the school up and talk to a counselor. It's strictly confidential, other than giving them the resources and tools to go to. They're not supposed to be talking about it with the school, correct?
I'm sorry, I didn't quite hear.
Like, if I'm understanding correctly, Peggy, right? You're kind of asking, are they gonna talk to the school? I don't think they're gonna talk to the school at all. It's confidential. They would give the student the information, encourage them to call it.
That's correct.
Yeah, because otherwise you're violating confidentiality if they start triangulating and talking.
Why is it confidential?
That's the service that's
Why is it
providing
confidential?
counseling.
Yeah, it's not a medical thing, it's not a legal thing, I'm just curious, what's the?
It still falls under HIPAA. It's a
still
HIPAA
falls under
guidance.
HIPAA?
Yeah.
What's the rollout plan? We adopt this so that the students and the parents have the accurate information as to what it is.
So Joe, I am wondering if you all might be comfortable to vote on this tonight, so we could get this rolling out in January. We would have a specific timeline for each week in January with when information would be distributed. We would set up a parent meeting, a virtual parent meeting in January to let them know about this. We would also meet with our staff to let them know what services are available, and in particular, our mental health support staff. So that our school psychologists, social workers, so that they'll know that they can refer students to this service if they're not comfortable talking to them individually. So we have a specific timeline. We will roll this out the first month that it is implemented.
And are there any neighboring schools that have used this or something like it that you're aware of?
Much of this mental health support is provided for colleges and universities. We would just be one of a few school districts using this, which I'm very proud of. It would give us a year to try it out, to see whether our students took advantage of it. And I think it's a perfect use of grant funding. You might be thinking, well, why don't we use the money to hire an additional social
That
worker
was
or an
my next question.
or an additional psychologist? Well, we know there would be a funding cliff.
Mhm.
So we, as much as we want to do that, we know that would have a budgetary impact.
Mhm.
This won't have a budgetary impact unless we decide to continue it. However, my hope is that it's going to be very successful and there will be other grant funding out there to support programs like this moving forward. I'm pretty confident there will be.
Is ARPA just for this 1 year?
It is.
Yeah, okay, but I guess, so have, if the issue is that we've determined that this is superior or is a necessary supplement to what we already have,
Mhm.
and I can see that argument would make a lot of sense. But if we're gonna fall off a cliff either way with this or with hiring someone,
Mhm.
I want to make sure that this is superior to hiring someone else. I don't think that the budget cliff argument is as applicable.
Mhm.
I think I'd want to say, well, have we determined that this is more effective for our students than hiring another psychologist, right? And if the answer is yes, great, but it shouldn't be the budget cliff though, I don't think.
I think from the student's perspective.
Have we done that?
Yeah, I would like to. Sorry, Simone, do you mind if I just?
I think for having it from a student perspective, like the online one is better because it's more like personalized and it's more anonymous. You don't have to worry about like. We only have two. We have a psychologist and a social worker right now in the high school. And like this, you said is like unlimited or whatever. So I,
24/7 too.
yeah, so it's like, I think that's nice, like on a weekend. So I think it is almost better, this program, than hiring.
I know a lot of students struggle with face-to-face, like having to verbalize their concerns to someone just like in person, so I think that could be helpful alternative to people who struggle more like with in-person, like social interaction, because that could be like what's like blocking them from being able to advocate for their issues.
So Ryan, I do think that is the benefit. It's anonymous and all students would have access, even on the weekends and at night, at midnight. Where they don't have access to a school professional.
Historically, 70% of the calls come in after normal working hours. So that's when, their kids are in sports, they're in school, they're busy, they're home, they're on social media, something happens, they get upset. That's when they need to have the availability of somebody to speak to them, whether it be 7 o'clock at night, 12 o'clock at night, on a Saturday or Sunday or on a holiday. That's when we see the highest levels of anxiety, stress, depression going on with with all the populations, but specifically the students.
I have two questions, sorry, but Kevin, what did the social worker, counselor, principal, I mean, obviously, I'm assuming everybody is aware of this. What was their feedback on this?
The feedback is this is another benefit for our students. This
Yeah.
is terrific.
So they were
So very
wanting
supportive.
this. And then it talks so much about the short term, like it's a short term thing. So what happens? I just want to understand the process better. Like it's short term, they call, they have a concern, they're struggling, they give them limited short term feedback and offer support, but then what happens if they need to call again or again, that then they direct them to counseling, but then that's when the parent, they have to find an outside counselor and the parents pay for that separate? Because I think that's the part I'm not understanding.
I understand your question. So the way the program works is, so for the coaching part, there's two major components. There's the coaching and there's the let's call it the counseling session, if you will. A little bit more than that, we'll call it that. There's no limit to the coaching that goes on as often as need be for every student, whatever the need may be. On the counseling session, they try to limit it to 5 or so. There's no hard stop. If a student is right on the verge of making some kind of a recovery, if you will, and they needed, if the counselor felt like that 6th session is really what's going to get them there, then they'll be certainly allowed to grant it, have it. But they generally focus on 5, and it's per incident. So, and the reason for that is they don't want this to become a program that's when some students are gonna need long-term therapy. They're gonna need more in-person, longer-term sessions. Usually within 5 sessions, they can determine that that's the case. And if that's the case, these counselors are gonna work with the parents and the child to find a local counselor that can continue that therapy with that child. Luckily, that's less than 5% of the cases usually. But if a child is, let's say in January, having issues with school, and they're upset because they failed an exam and, or they're not ready for it, whatever it may be. And then in March, they're having trouble because they're getting bullied or they broke up with their girlfriend, boyfriend, or maybe I'm just trying to make something up. That's considered a different session, so they would then be given 5 for that incident and so forth and so on.
Okay, thank you.
Ryan, to your point's a good one, I think. There were, you flip a few more pages, the reporting page. I think after a couple of quarterly reports, we get an idea.
I think so too. But the question is, who are the coaches and what are their qualifications?
These are all board certified counselors. Most of them have a minimum of 10 years of experience. They are, again, most of them are, if not all of them are specialized in working with younger youth. They're all over the country. So because of the staffing issues, they might be in Detroit, but they could be here in Connecticut. It just depends on where that call gets routed. It's a free program to the students, so it's a phone call. And we touched on it, but one of the things that I think makes the program also somewhat unique and beneficial is the students are, HMSA has a student app that they would download to your phone, your smartphone. As we all know, we all live on our smartphones, especially the students, right, on their apps. So that's how they're gonna access it, the service primarily through the phone.
But when you say board certified, American Board of Psychiatry, what?
They are, I'm not sure, I mean, it's like, yeah.
You can tell that they're board certified if you don't know which board. Right, I mean, come on.
I could probably tell you sort of the exact certification that they receive.
Okay.
These are all licensed.
I understand, but I think these are appropriate questions to be asked.
Oh, no, absolutely. I'm just not sure of the organization that licensed them. We deal with a lot of other, let me see if I can find that for you very quickly.
Is this is just middle school and high school, and what about parents? Is there a parental piece or no? They're police students, and the only reason why a parent would be involved is if the parent were contacted by a counselor.
Yes.
But
Exactly.
I noticed that on that website, there was all these, like information and informative stuff. Do the parents have access to those, the mobile app, 5,000 articles, videos, and resources, or just students?
Bill, I believe parents would have access to
Yes,
the website as well.
they do,
Yes.
absolutely.
Just not, they're not gonna call a counselor, but they can go on and look at the articles and videos.
Absolutely.
Could I ask, could you just go over the cost again? $5 per student,
$5
times how many students?
for 722 students
Okay.
a month.
So zero cost to the family.
Zero cost to families. So the grant would be funding this. For a year, it's $42,000.
And we can quit it at any time? Or is it a 1-year commitment?
It's a 1-year commitment.
It just seems like a ton of money for something that's, I think it could be great. I don't want to say that it couldn't be great, but personal opinion, it seems like a big. We talk about a couple $1,000s here or there. For stuff that we know is good. It seems like an awful lot of money to commit to something that isn't proven in our district, but it sounds like it's not proven for the age category we're targeting either. If it's really for more utilized in college age students.
Kevin, also, do we have, I mean, I'm just assuming, but just to check, we have indemnification and waivers for whatever, these kids get advice through our program and if it goes not as well as we would hope and something happens, board and the school district are indemnified?
Yes, we are. Yeah, absolutely.
So if a parent doesn't sign off on this, then the kid can't use the service?
That's correct. That's important. Parents need to be able to give consent.
Yeah.
I think the rollout, if we choose to go with this, the rollout plan is critical. Because we're only as effective as we are communicating and, encouraging of this.
I think we would lean on you guys too, to tell us how to encourage kids to use it and not see it as like one more thing that we don't use,
I was thinking about this and I was thinking like, I'm part of like Students Against Violence Everywhere Club through Sandy Hook Promise. And I think that like that club could help encourage this because we were actually thinking of like, and this is perfect because we were thinking of doing like an anonymous reporting system and having ways students can report like things they're seeing because the whole thing about Safe Club is see something, say something. And so this kind of solved that issue and maybe like we could have student leaders maybe learn like or get trained in some way on like this program and like how we can enforce it with our friends. So, someone's just be like, hey, like, have you tried this? Like, this is a great resource. Like, maybe we can have a certain group of students who are willing to like really understand the program and talk to their friends about it.
Would kids call on the phone and talk to a voice on the phone? Yes, I thought there was a virtual thing.
Yeah, no, I think.
Would you text?
I think if it was text, I think that would be like probably easier, and I didn't know if that's an option, or is it just call?
So the call center is manned live with people, live individuals and people 24/7, 7 days a week. Texting is an option. It's not something that can be selected. There's an additional cost for that. And that's a brand new service that they just brought on in the last 6 months. So, and the reason they did that was because a lot of the students requested texting. But there's more expenses involved in that. But you're always talking to a live body, a live person. It's not like you're calling into a computer or something. I don't know if that's what you mean.
Well, the question I have, like, I have 2 young adult daughters and they're like, don't call me, text me, like, they don't talk to me. I think that's like weird. So that's why I was just wondering if the kids would actually feel comfortable talking to a voice.
I think it really just depends on the person, and that's like the hard thing. Like, I know I wouldn't mind talking to someone on the phone, but there's definitely people who maybe have like social anxiety, and then that would like further increase it. But if you don't know the person on the other end of the line, it can be easier because there's no judgment. You don't know who they are. They don't know who you really are. It's like there's not going to be judgment. They're an adult and they're trained, so I feel like the kid's not going to be thinking, oh, this person's going to be judging me or what my feelings. They're specifically trained in that way. So like, I don't think kids would care that much, but maybe that could be another step, like having students telling people about it, saying like, oh, it's not that bad. Like, I've done it before. Like, you know what I mean? So.
I do want to add just one thing, I don't want to get confused. We're not selling the texting program, or that's not part of this package. But if a student has a relationship with a counselor, and that student says, can I text you? In other words, that counselor and that student, once the first session takes place, it's up to the student and the counselor to schedule future sessions. And this goes for the coaching as well. If the counselor and the student want to text back and forth, that's certainly allowed, but it's not part of the program that we're providing today. So that's up to the counselor and the student will make that arrangement. And so it'd have to be mutual and agreed upon.
Would that cost money for like parents then, if it's outside of the program?
Only if there was an additional, texting data charge to the phone services and of that nature.
And this all communication sessions and texting, whatever you use is through that portal, like through the app or the site, as opposed to an actual phone number?
No, this is whatever the student is comfortable with. So there is an 800 number they can call on a regular rotary dialing. They can do it on their computer. There's, a website on their computer where they can schedule a virtual session. Again, the counselors are available either telephonically or a video chat. So if the child wants to have a video chat with the counselor, then they most likely are gonna be using their laptop computer to do that, because that has the phones. Well, your phones have cameras in them, so that works as well. Or if they just want to use the app on the phone, that's perfectly fine.
When I call, 99% of the time I get through to somebody right away, or am I frequently, I'm the 12th one in line, or when you call and
Yeah,
they're
no,
busy,
yeah, no, usually there's someone picking up immediately, but it acts as not only a crisis center, but also as a counseling center, so they want somebody to be there right away. To answer the phone. It's not a callback service.
No, but more often than not, counselors are available immediately.
Right, they're gonna speak to somebody, I'll call, this is not the right term, they're gonna kind of triage the situation, understand what that student's needs are. Because it can go down the coaching path, or it could go down the counseling path. And that's the only connect they'll have, but they're not gonna disconnect from that student, they're gonna learn from the student what the topic is. First. Calls. Now, they can only call the 24-hour crisis line, but that's a different scenario. Just for whatever services they need. But future counseling sessions are scheduled with the counselors and the student at whatever time is convenient for them. And then crisis is open 24 hours, 7 days a week.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Did you find out how they're board certified? Are they psychologists or social workers?
I'll get back to with you on that. I don't know what
It says they're counselors, so they're probably the national NBCC, the National Board of Certified Counselors.
I know they're all licensed counselors, board certified. I don't know who accredited, but we'll get back to you with that.
Yeah, that's what I wondered. How are they vetted? Like, did your company vet them, or is there some program that creates the list of possible candidates for this?
Yeah, no, it's not my company, that's HMSA does the vetting. I mean, this is what they do. And they've been, I mean, I think Kevin talked, they've been in business a long time. And they deal with a lot of government agencies and so forth, so it's not their first rodeo.
But for middle and high school, it's fairly new.
It is fairly new, yes, yeah. Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, COVID, I mean, the study showed that there's a lot of issues and depression before COVID, but that put a real spotlight on it, and it just exacerbated the issues. When I started in the business 7 years ago, you could get a counseling session, you could schedule a meeting with a counselor in a few days, maybe a couple of weeks. Today, if you had to schedule, if I had to go see somebody privately on my own, I'm probably looking at 8 to 10 weeks before I can get a scheduled session. They're in great demand. So that's why a program like this becomes so valuable.
Kevin, were there other options considered for this ARPA funding, or was this the only option we're looking at?
So thank you for asking that, because that addresses against Russell's point too about the cost. We were looking for a program such as this one that is innovative and unique, something that we didn't and couldn't already offer. So that's why we thought this was a great use of the ARPA funds, to do something innovative and unique to see how successful it could be.
So were there other ones that just weren't implemented, or like other ones that?
Other ideas.
programs, no other programs for mental health that we compared this to, or is that what you're asking? Compare it to other-
This was the only program that would be open 24/7 to all of our students. Versus putting this money toward a curriculum program that would only be offered during school hours.
Yeah.
This would support the whole child, which really is in alignment with our mission of our school district. We've always talked about how academics are important, but we truly believe in the social and emotional well-being of our students. And I think this would be putting our money where our mouth is, where we believe this is really important, especially now, 2 years after, or still as we're struggling with post-pandemic issues. I'm going to go over a report with you tonight that shows that over the last 2 years, we've had more students absent from our schools than we had previously, and that's called chronic absenteeism. And we're working hard to address that now. One of the reasons students are absent is because of depression and anxiety. This is another way that we can support students.
I'll just to the question, so, you said that it would just be for the year because we're using those ARPA funds that we have now, so then, and then, I'm curious about how would we know, or would we know how successful the program is, meaning like how many kids are accessing it and so forth and so on, and then if it is successful and we have it only for 1 year, then what happens?
I know Mr. Bishop will be looking for grant funding.
Yeah.
To continue the program.
Yeah.
Currently, there are grant funds that we're applying for to get additional social worker support. We see these grants continuing into the future. The grants that are becoming available are for mental health support. So I'm confident that a year from now, there'll be other grant opportunities.
Okay.
And Cindy, as we said before, I think if we look at the monthly, we can request monthly reports. How many students access the service each month?
Yeah.
And we'll keep track of that data moving forward. I think that will let us know how successful the program is.
Right.
And maybe to our students who might be willing to share their experiences anecdotally, that will be really helpful also.
Yeah. Or even like an anonymous,
Mhm.
survey or something, like just, reporting back on their experience, like, is it good, is it helping you? Yeah.
How long does a graduating senior get to use it?
For 6 months. January
Okay.
through June.
I have a quick question. Because I just got, when you said the parents waiver, if a student calls this number, the confidentiality, do they notify, are they notifying the parents that they've contacted these people, or is that just, is it the waiver just for one, I guess the campus relates? Like, I say, if, let's say, my daughter's Simone, by the way, just to let you know.
You've done a great job.
Congratulations. Since we're talking about this here, if she calls the number, let's say my daughter might call you up. But let's say a student calls the number, does the counselor have to let the parent know if they received the phone call from the student, or is that?
No, I mean, if the consent's been signed, then no, they're not gonna be talking to the parent. That's part of the confidentiality.
Okay, so just that, it's just a number, so let's just say. 1 call, 2 call, let's say a 3rd call comes in for a certain issue, then they make a determination whether the parent gets contacted or school or.
Okay, let me, I don't know what confuse this. If the parent has signed the consent form,
Okay,
then the dialogue is gonna be between the student and the counselor. The parent will be involved, unless there's a need for the parent to be involved. They want that child to be able to speak openly to that counselor.
no, I completely, yeah, I agree with that. I mean, there's some things obviously that you can say to some people, something, I just wondering that if. at what point does it become a, you know, the scale, does it become, if a student continues to say, you know, they keep calling, you put the service in, now they know it's there, they call 2, 3, 4 times. The fourth time, well, let's say, wow, there's something here that's bigger than just. or needs
I
more
follow where you're going now. So if the counselor determines that there's a deep, I don't know if I'm using the right term here. But we'll say a deep-seated issue that needs long-term counseling. And they're exhausting the 5 or 6 sessions that they're allotted for that incident. That's when they're going to work out with, the HMSA staff is going to work with the school, with the parents to say, we've identified the student. They need more than we can provide for services. And they're gonna try to, and by the way, at that point, if it's allowed, if the student permits it, they'll share the notes with the new counselor that they would, if they go that route, they would share the notes with that new counselor, so that student is not starting from square one with whatever.
Yeah, that's what I meant to say. I'm just saying, is it, you know, to use the term loosely, but you know, just so it doesn't become a crutch. And it's something that someone will use repeatedly, let's say that student for whatever reason calls 5, 6 times for an issue that seems could be a grave issue, could be just.
Yeah, I really can't address it. I mean, the counselors were trained to identify the issues, I guess, and if they feel like, I really don't know at what point they may say the student isn't really using the service properly. That perhaps is another reason they have a 5 limit.
Okay, yeah, I just want, I guess I didn't understand what the waiver of parent thing is. So it is a confidentiality, once you sign the waiver between that counselor, his service and the student.
Yeah, and I think part of it, like when we do, if we do move forward with this, like the rollout and the parent communication and the questions from the parents, I think that's a good time to kind of figure out how all that works. But I think what you're saying, correct me if I'm wrong, that once the parent signs the waiver, the student then has the opportunity to use academic settings. And they're not reporting back to the parent or doing anything like that unless there's like some emergent situation where they needed a parent.
That is correct.
Or the school should know, like my daughter made that point, Bill, it said that, you know, if they're at school and say, I gotta make this phone call to this thing, and I guess the school would, at this point, once this, if this is, we go with this program, they say they'll know at the, you know, the nurse's office, at high school, middle school, they'll say, okay, this is, you know, whatever, you know, call, whatever you're gonna assign the name to is, I gotta make this phone call in this place. So they would know ahead of time what they mean by, you know, and I'm not saying, I'm not trying, I'm just saying that not to be a crutch every time someone says, you know,
Right, no, I.
using that to
understand.
text somebody else or something, you know, I mean, I'm just saying that if the parent then is informed that this was, once you sign this, and if they go past 5 calls, like you said, the
Yeah, I
number.
mean, I think that we need to save that for when we get to that point, when I just like take too much time on it, but I do get what you're saying, but I think moving forward, we'll have to figure out how to inform parents like how it works. From that point on, but thank you for your
All
comment.
right.
Isabel, do you have a
Sorry,
question?
Yeah, I think there's like 2 questions. First, is it like taken into consideration about what finals week would look like if they're gonna kind of, all the counselors would be like bombarded? Was there any like risk of there being a shortage of counselors when like a big, like period, you know, like, I mean, this finals week, for example, is like coming around and lots of students are stressed and think they need an outlet. Are there enough counselors for this scenario that they're just like all at once, just kind of?
Yeah.
Right.
So, the answer is yes. Every time we bring on a new group, they make sure they have an adequate number of counselors. They're familiar with the seasonal things that they go on, whether it be holidays, students, you know, testing and so forth. So they can staff up for that. You know, we just brought on a large school system out in Nebraska. And so, but it was considerably larger than Canton. It was in the thousands. So they had to actually staff up for that region. And that's why they generally will ask, you know, the head count, so to make sure that they have enough staffing on involved. That's a good question. Thank you.
I also had a question about the reporting. So it says accounts are given the quarterly reports. And does that imply that the schools would be receiving a report about, where there like are issue areas? And could that be used to like then move to the school and be like, if there was like a notably like pretty like big issue, like, oh, we see like a lot of students are reporting with, severe like feelings of depression or signs of depression, do we then address that in school with everyone, or implement any like changes in the school, or try to address that like aside from that?
Absolutely, it would serve as a needs assessment for us to know what kind of programs possibly to bring in for our students. Absolutely, Bella, you're right. You're right.
This discussion certainly emphasizes the need for a very careful and thoughtful rollout of the students.
Yeah, so, I don't have that rollout calendar in front of me, but Bill can attest that we've spent several hours taking a look at, what that rollout would look like. So we put a lot of thought into that, Joe, hoping this program would be approved.
Two more questions. One, how many, if you can answer this, how many schools of the similar age category are using this program? No, I don't know.
When you say similar age.
Yeah, so I think it was said middle school, high school, yeah, like,
Okay.
as opposed to how many college level schools are using this program, like, are we the guinea pig? I'll ask
Yeah.
the question bluntly, are we paying, are we the guinea pig paying full freight and having to lock ourselves in for a year for something that hasn't been proven for the group that will go?
I don't know the number of how many schools are in the program. I don't know the answer to that. I know you're not beginning, but you're certainly not the first program in the program, school in the program. But I don't know how many they have. So I should probably explain who Paula Dr. Plus is and the relationship. Paula Dr. Plus is, for lack of better terms, a broker for telehealth services. That's what we do. We are an independent company that works with a whole bunch of different telehealth services around the country. Teladoc, you probably heard of Teladoc, they're the biggest. So we're one of the biggest distributors for Teladoc. But we also use MD Live, MeMD, Health Advocate, HMSA, Dial Care, and others. So we work with all of those companies as well as any others, because we're independent, like an insurance broker would be independent. So we're not part and parcel to anybody. So when a prospect or a client comes to us and says, this is our needs, this is what we're looking for, then we go out and do a canvassing, try to find the best solution for that particular need, whatever that challenge was that was presented to us. So when we did that, we identified 2 programs in this space that works specifically with high school and middle school students. That's a challenge. I mean, the big school or the big program like Teladoc, MD and so forth, they really don't want to work in that age bracket. Now they're being so pressured and they're talking about maybe having to do that in the future. But there's a lot more. It's a lot more complicated, to put it that way, to deal with the adolescent age groups than it is the adults, right? So there's very few companies that are in that space that are doing that. We identified 2 that met the criteria that Canton gave to us. One was HMSA, the other one was a company called Dial Care. They were frightfully more expensive. But I don't know, to answer your question, I don't know how many schools are on board with HMSA at this time.
And then the second part of my question is, if we said go and voted, since this is a telephone number call-in thing, do we just get the number tomorrow and people can start calling? And the reason I asked that is if we were looking for a little bit more of a detailed plan on the rollout, or maybe some of the information that couldn't be answered tonight about, how many other schools are doing this in the age bracket, or what board has certified that. Could we wait till the next meeting, vote, and not impact greatly the rollout timeframe? Since we don't have a rollout plan right now.
Well, I have a rollout plan.
Okay,
We do have a rollout plan. If you waited to vote on January 10th, then truly the rollout would need to wait until after.
yeah,
I'm just saying the obvious, right?
yeah,
You vote on January 10th, if you approve it, the rollout would start later than the first week of January. Which if you approved it tonight, the rollout would begin the first week of January. We begin communicating this before the holiday break. And send out January dates for the parent meeting.
I just want to say, I appreciate having two students here who actually seem like they think this is a great idea. So, I mean, that is nice.
I know I definitely use it, like if it was a program, I don't know about you, but I definitely would.
Russell, did you have another question or?
no, I mean, I'm just gonna keep hammering down on the same thing, like the 1-year commitment seems like crazy, like, can't we just say, guys, let us try it for 6 months, it's still $20,000. If in 6 months, we have 10 students using the program, or none, or 300, then I think we get a better idea, but we're not just giving away 20,000. I just feel very guinea pig-ish. I think it's great. I think it's a very important topic. I just. It feels very guinea pig.
It feels very much like a program for employees and older kids that I think we're trying to get down to younger folks, and that's great, but just, want to make sure it is really tailored to them. And so I think a trial period is awesome, whether it's a year or 6 months, but.
Bill, is it a possibility to do 6 months? I don't believe it is. In our discussion.
Well, I'll answer your question, this way. The contract is for 12 months. I've been doing this business for a long time. I don't know that I've ever worked with a operation that didn't have a 12-month contract. That's pretty, well, it's common in this industry. Just as if you were working with Blue Cross Blue Shield, or Cigna, or Aetna, you're signing, when you do your medical renewal, you're signing a 1-year renewal, right? That you're signing a contract that says we're agreeing to these terms and so forth. There's a lot of expense involved with these companies, and a lot of startup expense on their behalf. There's also probably a slow curve as far as how the success of the program goes, how well we roll it out. So I'm not trying to defend the 12-month contract. I'm trying to have you understand that I've worked with clients over the years where they client and say, yeah, we're gonna do everything, but we're gonna sing from the highest mountain and raise with the program, and then they don't. Well, who's at fault for the success or failure of the program? Company, or is it the client, right? They didn't live up to their part. So under a contractual world, we all know that we can break a contract, right? And my company, All Doctor Plus, would never try to enforce a 12-month contract for anybody if it wasn't working for both parties. So if in 6 months or 7 months, it was a disaster and nobody was using it, and we said, we got to get out of it, we could help them get out of the program. But we without any legal, we wouldn't want anybody to be unhappy. That's our reputation. And so that wouldn't benefit anybody. And our company has a 60-day cancellation. We've never enforced that, because if somebody's that unhappy, we don't want them, right, as a client. So that's just good practical business, practical business tactics that we built. But on the other hand, it is a 12-month contract, which means you're putting faith in them, and they're going to do their best to make the program successful over the next 12 months. And I don't know that really anything short of 12 months would be a fair test of success. We have to think about the seasonality that's going on. And I'm just talking anecdotally, one of the biggest areas or times of the year is coming on us right now. It's really frankly too bad we don't have the program in place now, because statistically, there's going to be a lot of stress over the holidays, right? This is when the program can be used. So we're going to go through a period of time, kind of like the flu season with general telemedicine. It's coming and going. So who knows what's going to happen in the spring? What worldwide events could to take place to get escalate, the stress and needs, but then we come into the summer months and so forth. So I think it's fair to have a 12-month contract. And I think that's the true test of the program. You have to think of it this way also, and I'm trying to be really rough. But you're making a $5 per month times 12, you're making a $60 investment in your student. That's it, $60 per year for your student. To provide all of the services that are being available to them. So it may seem like a lot of money when you take 5 times 12 times 722. But if you break it down as a parent, you just think about what would $60 be able to provide to a student for a year. I mean, that's not a lot.
Kevin, what would these funds be spent on if they weren't spent on this?
So they were slated to be used toward social and emotional support for our students. That's the category,
Okay, so if they weren't spent on this, they would just kind of sit in a,
until we determined how else to use the funding
okay.
in that category. Okay, we'll come back to this later on the agenda under, since we do have a motion. Does anyone have any questions at this time? Bill, thank you so much for being here tonight.
You're
We
very welcome.
appreciate it.
I appreciate everybody's input. Hope you have a nice holiday.
You too,
Thank
Bill.
you.
And I'm always available for future meetings,
Thank you. And thank you to everybody for your great questions.
thank you. Good night.
Good night.
A couple of other items I wanted to let you know about. One, we're just so pleased with our latest visit by the New England Association of Schools and Colleges. So last week was the decennial visit for the NEAS team. They came to Canton High School as part of the NEAS accreditation process. So I believe it was 12 years ago. They initially came because of the pandemic. The decennial visit was put off for 2 years. A team visited 5 years ago, and then 2 years ago, to look at what the recommendations were for our high school and how much progress we've made toward those recommendations. So a team visited our high school last Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Several of you met with team members on Tuesday morning. Thank you so much for taking the time to do that. Normally, when a team visits, we don't get immediate feedback. But we did receive immediate feedback. John and I in particular, when we met with them as district-wide administrators, they were so pleased with the progress that they've seen at our high school. So the message I want you to have is thank you for your support to make our high school one of the strongest in the state. And those were their words. And it's nice to get that affirmation that for a small high school, we offer such a comprehensive curriculum. The committee was impressed with the rigor of our curriculum. Members of the committee visited every classroom at least once. Many classrooms they visited a second time. They were able to talk with students. I don't know if the committee members talk with you. What kinds of questions did they ask you?
I think most commonly what they would do is they would come in and just check in with the students, what are, we currently working on. And then after explaining it, they would say, what is the objective of doing this? What is this like working towards, and what's like the goal or final project to work right now?
Yeah, I gave them a tour on Tuesday morning of the school, and then I did the student panels the next day, and they asked like, what's our favorite thing about Canton? And then, what areas do we need to work on? And they seemed really happy, so I was good.
The team was very impressed with the quality of work that you were doing, that all the students were doing. the quality of teaching that was taking place, and also very impressed with the camp projects, and also with PLT time that Dr. Kidwell and Mr. DePippo have worked hard to create professional learning times, professional learning teams, to work during professional learning times in small groups, multidisciplinary. So an art teacher would work with a social studies teacher, who would work with an English teacher, who would work with a world language teacher to get different perspectives surrounding different topics. It's unique. Not every high school allows those professional opportunities. So there's so much to be proud of, and the committee will write up a report, which I'll be happy to share with you in a few months. But they wanted me to pass along to the board. Congratulations to all of you, and especially to our staff and our administrators and our students, who are such hard workers, really making our high school the flagship of the community, which it should be. And as I look back over my 16 years here, to see the amount of growth that has been made at our high school, I'm very proud of. So I wanted you to know that, and I wanted you to know the visit was very successful, and thank you to those of you who took time to speak to the committee members. And then thirdly, I wanted to let you know that we're planning for the first community gathering this year. You'll remember we had 4 community gatherings last year focused on equity. We have a gathering planned for January 18th. You'll recall, well, most of you will, if you were on the board when we adopted our equity policy. As far as the implementation of our equity policy is concerned, one of the areas that we said we would focus on is having community focus groups on the topic of diversity, equity, and inclusion. So this will be the first in a series of focus groups. Again, January 18th. We're going to send out information to the entire community this week. We're going to ask folks to register ahead of time so that we know how many parents will be joining us, how many students, how many teachers, how many administrators, because each of those stakeholder groups will be a different focus group with different questions asked of them. We have Trita Collier-Dickinson and Shannon Holder and Olivia Hussey from CREC, who will be helping to facilitate those groups on January 18th. So it's going to be at 7 p.m. from 7 to 8:30. So please save that date. So we're moving forward in that area, and I'm really excited. I'm hoping to get great information that we can use for future community conversations from that evening.
What was that date?
January 18th,
Is that at the high school?
7 to 8:30. It's going to be virtual.
Yeah, virtual.
It's going to be virtual, so we can have as many people join us as possible. The Guiding Coalition, the group of approximately 45 community members, they're each going to get a personal invitation to attend, because I really value the expertise of that group and want to build upon what they began working on with us in our equity policy and our equity statement. That's part of my official report. And the last thing that I'll talk to you tonight is listed on our agenda under presentation. I want to give you an overview of our statewide accountability index and where we are and how we are doing as far as that goes. But before I move into that, does anyone have any questions for me about anything within our district? Okay, in your packet, you have the presentation I'm going to go over with you tonight. I'm calling it an accountability index report. And this is hot off the press, which is why you didn't get this with your agenda. The state just released the latest accountability index report last Friday. Thank you very much, our students. Have a good night. Keep up the great work.
Try.
Thank you, Mr. Mason.
Thank you.
So according to state statute, superintendents are to present to their Board of Education this information on an annual basis. I always like to try to do it in November or December. Because these were just released, I wanted to give you an overview tonight. And again, we won't get deep into the weeds tonight. This is meant to be an overview for you. Each of the principals reported on their specific school scores. So we're not going to get into specific scores, but I'm presenting to you a 30,000-foot overview, if that makes sense, of the district and where we are at this time. So the first page talks about what the accountability index is. It's a broad set of 12 indicators that help tell the story of how well a school or a school district is preparing students for success in college, careers, and life. It moves beyond just SBAC scores and graduation rates. And the state tries to provide a holistic, they call it a multi-factor perspective of district and school performance. Incorporating student growth over time, that's the key, student growth over time. There are 12 indicators that we are measured on, and I listed them for you here. On the next page, you can look at this when you have some time to do so. This next page, accountability index, talks about the percentage of each indicator that makes up the total score for our elementary schools, middle schools, and high school. So it's color coded. So for example, at the elementary level, the green indicates academic achievement. The red area, 42%, is weighted on the academic growth of students, looking at the same cohorts of students, the same group, and their growth over time. So I thought you would be interested in this. We won't spend a lot of time on this right now, but I hope that's helpful. On page 4, this shows our accountability index over time. And what you're going to see tonight is a dip in performance over the last 2 years. So we did not get performance results for the year 1920 or 2021 because of the pandemic. You'll see the last score we have is from the year 2018, 2019. So there's a 2-year gap. And what you're going to see as we look at these graphs are dips in performance, as most school districts are seeing. And I don't want to say the pandemic was an excuse, because it's not, but we have to understand what the factors were. More students were absent. Students were working remotely from home. In math classes, students were not allowed to work in groups or to use math manipulatives in groups, as our curriculum was designed to teach. So there were mitigating factors that I think we just need to acknowledge. When you look at our district accountability index over time, the target that the state is looking for is 85. In 2018-19, we were at 83.4. We've dipped to 75.3. So we are working to get back up to that 85 mark. The next page looks at overall English language arts performance. And we're looking at all students, which is the top line. And then the bottom line are students with high needs. So it's very important that we want to see an increase in performance with all of our students, and also students with high needs. And students with high needs is defined as students who receive free or reduced lunch, and students who have individualized educational plans, who receive special ed support or have 504 plans. And that's an area that we're gonna focus on throughout. Our new Director of Pupil Personnel Services, Barbara McLean, this is something that she has started looking at and addressing right away. But you can see we dipped from 75.5 to 70.7. And students with high needs, we dipped 60.3 to 58.3 overall in the district. On page 6, it shows growth. The state has a formula where we measure student growth over time. Now, the good news is that here, students with high needs are improving, going from 44.8% up to 49.3%. But we're seeing a dip with all students. So that trend we do not want to see continue. So what are we doing about that? We've already put plans in place based upon our reading curriculum. The curriculum committee tomorrow will hear about decodable books that we're purchasing for our students. And the training in the Wilson program and the Foundations program. We're already taking steps to address these issues. And also with the hiring of our literacy coach at the high school, which NEAS commended us for. That's also an area where I thank you for providing that support, because that will help improve student achievement at the high school level as well. And then math, we already talked about. When the schools did their presentations, you can see overall that we dipped there too, from 72.5 to 66.5. Students with high needs from 56.1 to 53. So as we say to our staff, it's time to recenter and get this trajectory to move upward, moving forward. On page 8, again, we see that dip in math growth. And we've identified several reasons for that. And you know that we hired an additional math instructional coach for the elementary school. So each elementary school now has a math coach, and that certainly is helping as well. We've also provided additional professional development this year at the middle school. They're using a program called Bridges, and we weren't able to provide that professional development training in 2020 when the program was first implemented because of the pandemic. So now we're providing that training, and we know our students will improve their math performance. What's really important is on the next page, page 9. So this shows the number of students who are chronically absent. And chronically absent is defined as being absent for 9 or more days. So when a student hits that 10th day of being absent, it doesn't matter the reason. They're deemed to be chronically absent, and we have to report that to the state. So you can see how we've spiked up with the number of students who are chronically absent over the last 2 years. Now, students who were quarantined because of COVID, they're reported as chronically absent. So we can disaggregate that data, but the state doesn't do that. We just report the number of students absent 10 days or more. You can tell this is an issue. So we have plans in place this year where staff, each school has an attendance committee, and staff meet to look at student attendance before it hits that day 10, that day 10 level, so that we can intervene and hopefully prevent students from being absent that much. Now, if they're sick, we can't prevent that, but we can prevent it for other reasons, mental health, emotional health, and so forth.
Kevin, excuse me, I don't want to forget, do we have we been able to look at the data and break out who's absent for being sick, who's absent for mental health issues?
Absolutely. We have
Right.
internally,
Okay.
but the state They don't care about management.
But for us, like, how does that reflect in this spike? Is it illness? Is it depression? I mean,
It's both. Much of it was illness or quarantine due to COVID. And then the other part is anxiety overcoming the school.
because of COVID or general anxiety?
I can't be as specific.
I have no idea
For other
how
reasons,
far we got.
yes, for other reasons. But certainly the schools know, that's one beauty of Canton. The schools know, we know every student and why they're absent. And, we're working on hiring, the student engagement and family coordinator. We're having second round interviews coming up shortly. This is the position you approved in the fall. We have not found the right person yet, but we're getting close. And you'll recall that one of the important job responsibilities is student and family engagement as it relates to attendance. So we really are trying to work hard on this. And again, we're not the only school district that is struggling with this. However, this is a major factor that we don't want to see again.
That's Mr. Campbell's replacement.
That's right. The choice liaison is part of that position, You're right, Erica.
But last year, if you were home 5 or 6 or 7 days, COVID quarantine, there was no online option. You're right. The year before,
That's correct.
if you were home 10 days for a quarantine, you had the option of going online.
Yes. That's correct.
If it makes sense, to compute it that way.
Mhm.
The youngster, we forced the youngster to be home because they were quarantining.
John and I agree with that. It doesn't make sense. But I did want to explain the
Right.
data, so when you see this, you'll understand what this means. Moving on to page 10, some good news. College and career readiness. The state would like us to be at 75%. We're hovering around that 75%. This is the percentage of students in grades 11 and 12 who are participating in at least one of the following during high school. 2 courses in advanced placement, 2 CTE courses, in one of 17 career clusters. So we continue to do well in this area. The state sent out a message today saying that they did not calculate this correctly, and most districts would see an improvement because they didn't calculate one factor. So I'll get back to you with the recalculated number. We may be above 75% here. I wanted to show you the advanced placement score report, which is the next page. What I'm very proud of over the last several years is that we've had more students enroll in advanced placement courses, and we've offered more advanced placement courses. So you can see by the bar graph that in 2022, 86% of our students received scores of 3 or more, with 5 being the highest score. And you can see on the chart from 2018 through 2022, the total number of advanced placement students, the number of exams that are being taken, the number of students with scores above 3, and the percentage of students with scores above 3. So our students taking advanced placement courses continue to do very well. They do not have to take the exam. It is their choice whether to take the exam. We've worked to eliminate any obstacles from students enrolling in advanced placement courses because we want high expectations for all students. And we have a variety of students enrolled in advanced placement courses that years ago wouldn't have been in an advanced placement course. Comparative government, for example, an AP environmental science. So we're providing more opportunities for all of our students. That's something we want to continue to do and we're proud of.
And Kevin, that that 2021 dip is no surprise. I mean, post-COVID, right? Yeah.
That's how we see it.
Yeah.
Moving on to slide 12. This is the percentage of students who attend college after graduating Canton High School. So our students continue, most of our students do attend 2 or 4-year colleges or universities. Other students go into the military, but as of 2022, 86.6% of our high schoolers attended a post-secondary school. On page 13, this gives you an overview of physical fitness results and the number of students participating. So we've trended upward for the most part as far as our students performing well on physical fitness tests. Jen, please feel free to jump in if you'd like, any other additional information. On page 14 shows you the percentage of students in grades 9 through 12 participating in at least one art class. And this is all about access to the arts. So this is participating in at least one dance, theater, music, or visual arts course in the school year. The state says that we should have more than 60% of our students participating. And we know how important the arts are, so we want to continue to encourage students to take those art classes. The next several pages include information that you've already seen in the school reports related to the Smarter Balanced Assessment. But I would like to highlight page 19. Because I want you to know where we rank in comparison to our DERG and the Farmington Valley. So when you look at English language arts, the average DERG score in DERG, just to remind you, it's demographic reference group. It's the groups are the school districts are grouped according to socioeconomic status, right? So DERG A towns are along Fairfield County for the most part. DERG B towns are towns like Farmington, Simsbury, Avon. We're surrounded by DERG B, while Canton is a DERG C town, a DERG C community, but the average DERG score for DERG C is 62.7. Our average score was 64.2, a little bit higher than the average DERG. The average area score for the Farmington Valley was 65.3, remembering their DERG B schools. And the state's always alerting or cautioning us, don't compare yourselves to schools outside of your DERG, but of course we do. Because we have high expectations for our school community. The state of Connecticut average is 49.1. So overall last year, we were 4th out of the 8 area districts. And we were in the top 3rd of our 15 DERG districts. And that's in the area of English language arts. If you turn to page 23, you will see the same statistics for math. Overall, in the school districts, students' math achievement dropped. It dropped across the board. So whenever student achievement drops across the board, one has to wonder, is it the curriculum in each of the school districts or is it the test? So it's something that, excuse me, that we're questioning. But the average DRG or DERG score is 54.8. The average area score is 56, and we were at 56.4. Just like English language arts, we're 4th out of the 8 area districts, and we're 5th out of the 15 DERG districts. So we remain in the top 3rd. We know that we can't just rely on one test score, the SBAC. That's why we have other assessments that you've heard of, the STAR assessment, you've heard a lot about over the last few weeks. And those are the assessments that we put a lot of weight on to determine how our students are doing on a daily basis. But this is just meant to give you a broad overview as to where we are at this current time. And so a year from now, this will be your baseline data. So a year from now, you can look to see that these percentages will go up. John, you have
Yeah, I
anything
think,
to add?
I think the one thing to be able to add to this, it's definitely not where we want to be. But where I was pleased with it, where I was pleased was with our process. And I hope that as you see this and you think back to the presentations by the principals, the time on task and the time and focus on the problems of practice that we are seeing within our district. Those are things that we are actively engaged in. And it was confirmed for us in this report to be able to see, yes, these were issues for us to be able to work with. And we are continuing to be able to, we are doing that work actively right now. So it's not a situation where we're looking to be able to try and catch up on it already. We've already been doing it for the past several months to be able to really try and move this ball down the field, as it were.
Any questions about anything you're seeing here?
Just a quick observation, sorry if I'm reading it wrong. The common wisdom was that the pandemic was the hardest on the youngsters with special needs. Based on what I see here, that's not the case in Canton anyway. That the youngsters with special needs had a relatively small decline. The AP students did better, and I guess you'd have to conclude that the rest of the students took the brunt of the decline, if you whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
Is that accurate?
It's accurate. I mean, we know students don't learn as well online as they do in the classroom in person with the teacher right in front of them.
Right, but I'm pleasantly surprised to see the relative success of the youngsters with special needs.
Absolutely.
Relative less decline.
Absolutely.
You know,
That is a good way of putting it, and it does confirm what we would call some of our, sometimes we have our lingo in education, but our cuspy kids, our kids who could move up, or our kids who might slide down, and based on a number of different factors for them, right? Last year, whether it be attendance or it be an instructional model, whatever it is, there was some slide. What we want to be able to do is we want to be able to grow those students. The continued time to be able to focus on the data that we see for our ongoing progress monitoring, our curriculum work to be able to support the needs of our students. We're putting big bets on that, making a huge difference for our kids going into the spring and being the right type of response for them at this.
And we measure ourselves by so much more than test scores, including our arts program. And today we did get a nice certificate of accomplishment from State Senator Chris Murphy on our music program. So I'll just pass that around. So the state of our school district is strong and improving, I'm happy to say. And you know, this is important for you to have this baseline data as we reset ourselves and we continue to move forward. Well, thank you.
Thank you, Superintendent. Are there any other questions on that at all? And we're gonna move over to Assistant Superintendent Bishop with his information and report.
All right, thank you very much. I appreciate it. Just a few things to be able to share with you briefly tonight for some updates, and then a quick update on our program of studies. Website. It finally happened. So we were really thrilled about that. I really want to be able to thank my assistant Lynn Young, Claudia for all of her work, Robin Nardini, Kira for her support as our new communications coordinator as well, and all of our office staff at our schools too for all of their support. We think it looks beautiful. We think it really is reflective of who we are in Canton. And we know we can get better with it. So thank you to those of you who've shared some information with us. We've also, Kira, thank you so much, actually put in a tell us how we're doing button in the bottom to be able to give feedback to us directly. Are you going to show that right now? You are the best. You are the best. Tell us what you think. And it will jump right to a Google form for us to be able to give us a sense of what might we need to be able to add, what might we need to be able to adjust. And our goal for this is to really be able to make sure that we've got certainties of expected communication for our families and our constituency, making sure that we're really clear and that folks know where to be able to go on our website to be able to get the tomes of information there might need to be able to be. But again, a story well told from us. This is one of our major tools to be able to work on with that. So I know this was a major goal for the district and the board to be able to work on together. And I think we'll all give ourselves a quiet applaud in our heads on this right now, because this is a great thing to be able to know that. In the vein of continuing to be able to move a ball down the field with some work here. Last year, you'll recall that we had conversation around capital improvement work, and that specifically revolving around our safety, our infrastructure with our cameras. I want to let you know that our security RFP, so that's request for proposal, has gone out, and we'll be working with vendors coming through in the next couple of weeks to be able to do walkthroughs and then have initial proposals in by mid-January. And we hope to be able to have a selection made prior to the end of the month to be able to work on moving forward to getting some great new features in place for us to be able to support safety and security for our students and our staff. And then I also wanted to share with you as well, the community workshops. We have a community conversation, but community workshops, the opportunity for us to be able to work together in support of our students. We as a school are going to do everything that we possibly can to support students. And we always need the help of our community to be able to do that. So part of what our job is to be able to engage our community in conversation around important issues for us. We had one recently regarding bullying and online behavior with that. Justine Ginsburg from the Farmington Valley Health District did a wonderful job. We've got 2 more settings that we're going to put in place, 2 more offerings. One will be social media in the minds of our children. That'll be February 1st at 7 p.m. And we're going to have a little bit more of an enclosed setting to be able to really encourage conversation for it, but we'll also offer it via Zoom for folks as well. And then we'll also have one on March 8th to be able to follow up in our series talking about the anxious child. And I think that this is a germane topic surrounding some of the conversations that we had tonight and just overall for the state of our students. So that gives you a sense of some of the things that we're working on from an operational end surrounding the work in our school. Any question on those 3 elements there? Excited to be able to see things continue to move for us. So this is great. And then the additional piece then is the program of study, which you'll find right here. This is our first review of our program of studies. Wanted to be able to highlight a few things for you here in our program. The first, we had a conversation with this around our curriculum committee, but the first was to be able to adjust some of our math program based on the needs that we have seen over the past several years and the opportunities that we see for our students moving forward. So we kind of come at this through a theory here. If we can improve our intake of students into the high school and provide them with the supports that they need to be successful, then they can achieve that success and find greater opportunity as they move forward in their high school career. I can direct you to that page if you want to be able to see it. It is on page 20. And with this, in the past, we had Algebra 1A in our freshman year. Then we had or algebra or geometry, college prep or honors, multiple pathways. Then in grade 10, we had geometry and data analysis, geometry college prep, geometry college prep, geometry data analysis, or algebra 2. And then it moved on and on and on. But what I want to really be able to bring attention to you for with this was we had essentially for students who were struggling with mathematics, they would have the opportunity for Algebra 1A, the first half of algebra in their freshman year. Second year, they would have the opportunity for geometry and data analysis. Their junior year, they would be able to take Algebra 1B, the second half of algebra, and then they could take algebra 2 or probability and statistics or some STEM elective. What we saw was that those students then, because you take your SAT in your junior year, those kids were missing out on algebra 2 content in their junior year. They were engaging in that in their senior year. So they were missing out on some of that content and that algebra 1A, 1B combination. Some schools were looking at it and saying, well, that's just algebra. We're only going to give you 1 credit for that. What we saw the opportunity for us was to be able to revamp this then. And actually, if you scroll down a little bit for us there, Kira, what we're going to do, instead of having algebra 1A and 1B, we would look to be able to offer conceptual algebra 1. Conceptual algebra 1 would be like the algebra 1A and 1B. However, what it would condense the work into 1 year with a concurrent lab. What this essentially does for our students is it gives them 1.5 credits, 1.5 STEM credits, which is really important in the credit game that is high school right now with Connecticut's requirements for high school credits. It would give kids an additional credit for that structured support in mathematics. Given the data system that we have to be able to review student performance and then provide direct support into that, we feel that we can do an even better job through a model such as that, which then allows our students to then move on to geometry and data analysis in 10th grade, which they would have anyways, but have the opportunity to then get into their algebra 2 or conceptual algebra 2 with financial applications by their junior year. This gives them an opportunity to be able to engage with additional rigorous content in preparation for their SAT. And then finally, what it does is it opens up the top branch for those students. Instead of taking another one of those math courses, they can then have an opportunity to work through a range of electives that might be math electives, that might be a CTE elective, that might be a science elective, something that can work within our STEM credits for that. That is the major change that we're looking to our program for this year, and we feel like it is very responsive to the needs of our students. It continues to be able to provide opportunities for our high achieving students as well, to be able to have additional opportunities. By being able to move through in this method, it allows us to be able to keep building more of those senior level electives that we can work toward data science for students or everyday statistical analysis. A lot of opportunities that kids could be able to work to engage in at a deeper level. Are there any questions for me on that?
So this is a first read, so you'll have a chance to look at this, ask any questions that you have, and then vote on this on January 10th.
And I'll be happy to be able to revisit this with our curriculum committee tomorrow morning if necessary as well. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Seeing no more questions in regards to that, we're gonna move to recommended action, which is the consent agenda and the approval of the minutes for November 21st, 2022. And the motion is to move that the Canton Board of Education approve the consent agenda. The first, Joe. Erica, second. All those in favor? Unanimous. Thank you. And then we're moving on to the approval of the 2023 Board of Education meeting dates. And on the second page, you can just notice the dates in red are all budget related. So I know that they just talk about there being a lot of meetings in February, but those are the budget related meetings. So the motion is to move that the Canton Board of Education approve the Board of Education meeting dates for 2023, excuse me. The first, Kim. Russell, second. All those in favor? Unanimous. Then we have a motion for the first reading of program and studies, and move that the Canton Board of Education approve 2023-2024 program of studies as a first reading. So the first, Joe. Second, Ryan. All those in favor? Unanimous. And approval of the mental health support proposal. I don't have that in front of me. Thank you. So move that the Canton Board of Education move to accept the proposal by Health Management Systems of America to provide mental health support to Canton middle and high schoolers beginning on January 1st, 2023. Do I have a first? Heidi? Second? Cindy, all those in favor? You got that, Kim?
I think so.
You raise your hands again, please, those in favor?
Pass.
Like, just say something quick, guys, we just voted for something, we don't even know what certified these people. I mean,
Well, there's a range of certifications for mental health.
no, I
providers.
know, but like, at least
I
tell us
mean,
what they
yeah,
are.
they could, I mean, they could be certified.
We're supposed to be,
But that's
we're
the concern.
supposed to get them information, and we haven't finalized a vote. This is only a first.
This would be,
Well,
This
this
is
is
our
fine.
final vote.
Yeah.
yeah, so.
That's what I would, I'm all, like I said before, I'm all for it. I think it's great. I feel like it kind of was dropped on us a little quickly tonight without a chance to ask follow-up questions.
Yeah, I think conceptually it's great. I mean, I think we could also buy yoga classes for everybody for $40,000 would do better than this, but I mean. Yeah, we got to at least know how these people are certified.
I mean, they're licensed.
Well, I think we have a duty as board members to know who we're sending our kids to go talk to. The guy couldn't even tell me what board they're certified with. He thought saying board certified was somehow sufficient. Not.
It seems like this is an easy sell for college kids. Right, I mean, and a really good thing for college kids.
Yeah.
It's,
So at the
we
very
have the
least,
guinea pig issue to deal with too, but Kevin,
at the very least, they're licensed clinical social workers. They are certified counselors.
I mean, I know what mental health, there's various different degrees. I understand what you're saying, like,
Yeah.
I couldn't answer, but I think there's so many different
Yeah,
certifications they have. I also know there's a huge need for mental health right now and.
there is.
our
There
kids are-
absolutely is.
And I don't know how this will play out. I just know that our kids need more resources that they're able to go to aside from like.
I am
Also,
curious.
he-
sorry, go
There's
ahead.
also a huge shortage of like pediatric psychiatrists, or, yeah.
And getting in,
psychiatrists,
to
yeah.
see them.
But I also wonder, are there other, and John's gonna tell me what's that, who they're certified by, but, I also wonder if we're talking about really getting sort of outside the box with some of these issues, and I was sort of serious, take that kind of money, you could do more proactive things, like whether it's meditation or whether it's, yoga or any kind of practices that can help these kids with mindfulness or, I mean, I would love it if there was something other than just push a button on your phone when the phone was probably half the problem anyway. I don't, it's very sudden. I think we should be, this is a great program. I want to talk about how great it could be. That's just my perspective on it.
Kevin, I gather you have studied this for
Go to the summer.
the summer.
Right.
And you feel this is the best way to go?
Absolutely. 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 I haven't found any other program that's 24/7 for our students. Yoga, mindfulness, emotional intelligence. We are working to integrate that into our classroom as it is, and we've seen great progress. That's not gonna take money. That's not gonna take money. This is where, if we value our students and want to give them opportunities to get support outside of the school day, this is the program that I found to be the best. Are there guarantees? There aren't, but how do we know that it will be successful until we try it? We wouldn't know.
If he said, if like, let's say 3 months or 6 months, nobody's using it. Then you could say, we want our money back.
Absolutely. And he
Can we get
committed
that
to that.
information?
Yeah.
Can we
Yeah.
get some information on this? some data sooner than maybe they typically are asked for, maybe that would,
You did say like every month or something, didn't you say that?
but meaning won't be, can Kevin get that to share with the board?
Oh, I can
That
share,
might-
I can share that with you monthly.
Okay, I mean, I have the same reservations as Ryan and all that, but we're trusting that you've done the research vetting this, that the counselors, our school psychologists, our social worker,
Mhm.
that everybody's weighed in on this and that there are no other options and that because of my voting yes was because the students are expressing a concern and interest in that. Unfortunately, you know, there isn't anything available through our school system after hours. So I guess that's where I feel if there's the need and this provides after hours, you know, Ryan, that's what I was thinking. But I understand, I agree.
I just-
It's soon and we didn't have a lot of information and we're having to vote on a
Well,
first
I
and
don't-
only read
And
tonight.
Kim, I don't want to be in a position if a parent walks up to me and says, who is my kid talking to? I said, you know, I don't know. They said, well, you voted for it. Okay, but I mean, I just think if somebody can, if anybody can tell me. And I understand your point, Felicia, there are lots of certifications, but I'd like to say, you know, when your child uses this application, they'll be connected with a.
Like, I do think it's that counselor. To get
Right,
that
it's definitely
listed
give
out,
those,
like, these are certifications.
Yeah,
that
I think the after school, the after hour part's fantastic. I just feel like we have an obligation to the town to tell folks, here's who we're. You know.
It's different, you said the counselors come from all over, and so it's different state by state.
Yeah.
They have a different, but they're all licensed counselors.
supposed to
He
be
did say
vetted
that,
through
but
there.
each state has a different
Well,
governing.
he said they were board certified, and so I said, well, what board? Which I think is a very fair question. And that's all the information that we got.
Yeah, certainly I can get that to you
I know,
tomorrow
I know.
morning.
And I would just share, Ryan, you're right, I was looking online. It does share that their staff's average experience exceeds 17 years in clinical and account services. So just, it's an additional point, but to your point of trying to be able to understand exactly where it comes from.
We've got a problem with absence or data that says absence is up because kids have stress or they don't anxiety and they don't want to come to school. It might be, you know, fixed by calling up somebody at 1 a.m. because somebody's texting about nonsense. I remember a kid telling me, oh, I read all these texts last night and I didn't know what to do about it. And blah, blah, blah. You know, you feel bad for them, but this way they could maybe call someone and kind of talk down the ledge of, you know, it doesn't matter, or it does, or I understand how you feel, or something like that, you know. I don't know, there's a lot going on, so I say support the kids with this kind of, and see how it goes. I mean,
Yeah,
that's what
give it a try.
I wonder about that too, like if I was a parent, my child was in the school, and you know, part of me would want to know, like, what are their issues, especially if it was like a lot of issues or something. But it might just be social, you know, like Sally and saying mean things to me again. She's my best friend. How do I deal with this? I don't know.
Well, I have some concerns, but I voted yes, because I trust that you vetted Kevin and Ryan, you make very good question there, very good point. I assume they're licensed, certified clinicians.
I'm a jerk, I don't trust Captain.
I don't take it that way. You're asking great questions.
We were, for record keeping, we were 6-0, correct? That's what I have.
We could be 6-0.
No, it's
6 and-
I'm sorry, 6 and 2.
Yeah.
I'm tired now.
Yeah.
Yes, 6 and 2. That's what I have.
Yeah.
Thank you from the math.
Any other comments?
You know, we call these wraparound services. You know, that supporting students not only during the school day, but outside of the school day. It's so important, so I appreciate your support on that. And we will measure the progress as we go along. And end the contract if students are taking advantage of it.
Will there be, can we have language in the contract? Because if the contract says 12 months, they say, no, you can get out of it.
I'll work on that.
Yeah.
I have the contract right on my desk, so I'll take a look at that.
Okay, thanks, Kevin.
Mhm. I appreciate your questions. I understand where they're coming from and I understand concerns you have. But if we waited until the perfect time, I don't think there would be a perfect time. And this is what we intended the money to be used for.
And midterms are coming up mid-January, so.
Okay.
If we vote to pass it tonight, then we would have it in place for that.
We begin communicating by the holiday break
Yeah.
and then set the parent meeting for January. We are just very quick.
Okay.
Mhm. Board member comments.
Do any board members have any other comments?
You might have, I'm sorry.
You're doing awesome. They did, right? They said, wow. So, move to executive session for a personal matter.
Inviting John and me.
Okay, inviting you on the superintendent.